Yeah, it says. You know, I thought that when we moved to this service, I wouldn't feel surprised anymore. I still am. Every time. Good morning, Facebook.
Good morning, Jamaica Miles, and good morning, Facebook. Everybody tuning in right now and tuning in later. Happy Monday and all of that. I mean, this is a whole lot for us to talk about today. We've had it's been one of them weeks where we had like amazing news, some amazing accomplishments, and we've also had, some tragedy that's befallen our community once again. So it's a lot. It's a lot to talk about. There's a balance, that we're as a community have to kind of figure out. Right? There's things that we have to talk about. Things we got to figure out. I still feel like I see this constant, positioning by those that are our so-called representatives of relying on on worn-out tactics, on tactics that have done nothing more but perpetuate the same harm that they want to see. They claim they want to see stop. But I don't want to get too far ahead.
Listen, I'm like, we are just jumping right in. We're gonna.
It's a lot.
There is a lot. I didn't even finish doing all the techie stuff, and somebody's off and running this morning.
I mean, you think about. I don't really know. I've been really wanting to talk about this stuff since it happened, and I'm not a Facebook dude to jump on and hit the lives all the time. But I mean, it's conversations that need to be had, and it's just something that we wrestle with as a community. We've been wrestling with for generations. So we'll see what happens. But there's a lot of news. There's a lot.
So how you doing today, Sean?
I'm doing all right.
Yeah.
Doing okay. Yeah, got my coffee.
Got your coffee.
Yeah, my coffee. It's early morning. It's Monday. We're here.
Starting with water today. I'm just not ready for coffee yet. Yeah. Well, I don't know what that means, but this is where we are. So
I feel like I don't know who you are. Let's say I feel like you're somebody else when you come here talking about you don't want coffee. That's crazy.
I know. Yeah. So anyway, again, good morning, Facebook land. Shout out. I know there's some of y'all watching. Are y'all feeling like the Monday drearies as well? Like you don't have a good morning in you? You're just not here for it? Okay, cool.
I mean, everybody might be a little bit,
It is. Mean? There's a lot.
There's a lot going on, but also, I mean, it was a hot weekend. People might be exhausted from that too. It wasn't just one thing going on. It was a lot.
There were quite a few things going on. We'll just not let the volume happen. That happened. Let's start on a lighter note. How about that? Because there was good stuff that happened in the last week, right? We've not talked with y'all since Monday. And while this weekend was filled with trauma and pain, there were good things that happened as well. And hopefully it's a sign of better things to come, given that there was community that came out that allowed for that good news to actually happen. It's like, Jamaica, why are you throwing subs? Why can't you just say what you want to talk about? Well, the results are in. The results are in. We did have our first election of 2021 school board vote, which across New York State, there was a vote to approve school board budgets. And there was also a vote in many places to either elect or re-elect representation for school boards.
Mm-hmm. And right here in our own city school district, Jamaica Miles won the seat on the board.
I got a seat.
I have a feeling like
if you
the way
I
just said it, it's like it doesn't. I mean, because I feel like who doesn't know that at this point?
No, there might be people that don't know. Maybe they didn't actually even see my acceptance speech was wow. I was tackled. Yeah. So if you didn't see it, I was physically tackled after I said, your girl got a seat, and then was tackled with love. It was quite the sight, and it was a really good night though, surrounded with amazing family, right? People that worked on the campaign, but like volunteer just don't cut it. Like that's not what it was. A lot of good people in the room, and
it was a lot of good energy, and it was a decent cut of the community, right? It was people from everywhere, different backgrounds that came out and supported throughout the campaign and came out to celebrate, or at least to get the results. That's what they were there to get the results. Like we didn't know. I mean, I feel like we knew, but you know what I mean. You don't know until you know. It was special to be a part of, man. To see what a grassroots, you know what I mean, movement, grassroots work actually looks like. To get the seat, to get the number of votes you did. I mean, it's really an accomplishment. I'm proud of you. Your community's proud of you, and we look forward to. It was an important election, right? There's a lot of money coming to the district.
Yep.
There's a lot of decisions that have to be made about what that money's going to be for, what's going to be improved for.
To hire a superintendent.
I mean, to hire a superintendent, that's definitely a part of the deal.
Yeah.
There's all those, jobs that were lost during the height of the pandemic for the community. So
they were cut.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot going on, and I think that the folks that work in the school district, the families, the children, the students themselves are going to benefit extremely from having you there and having you be a champion for them. So
thank you for that.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Something that was really, really clear during this election, and something that came up very often, is that voters wanted better, and they wanted different, and they felt like they needed different for it to be better. The incumbent getting the least amount of votes in the election. The other person that got a seat, congratulations to Erica Brockmeyer, who I saw in passing for the first time ever. So that was interesting. Thank you, universe. But the two of us are new to the board.
Yeah. Right.
There were 2 seats. One person did not run for re-election. The other person that did run, as I mentioned, did not get elected. And the paper pointed out that they received the least amount of votes. And articles in both the Gazette and the TU talk about the fact that there is a bit of a vote of no confidence because of what has been happening in our school district, Schenectady, with not being able to hire a superintendent, and a number of other issues. Some that there have been staff and teachers and parents and students that have spoken directly to me. And there's a need for us to work collectively to move forward and to ensure that our district is one that allows for the success of our students and leads with the anti-racism vision that we brag about.
Yeah.
We can't just talk about it. We need to be about it. So I'm really looking forward to getting in there in July. That's when I am sworn into office as an elected representative of Schenectady City families. And across the Capital District, all of the budgets passed. So our kids are getting money. Mr. Coleman should become superintendent. Don't know who Mr. Coleman is, but I don't yet know what the process is that is going to be decided on how we move forward with a superintendent. I have my thoughts and ideas about making sure that we have a process that allows us the best possible candidate for our district. That is not restrictive, that is not biased, that does not prevent us. And I hope that we have a large pool of candidates to choose from so that we ensure that there's no barriers to us moving forward in this process. So, and if you are someplace else in the Capital District and, are really excited about something that's happening, let us know. Like what's happening in schools and other places, where is help needed, because education is how I got started in all of this, and it's kind of my shtick.
And just before we I want to shout out Prince Sprav and all the others that ran. They put out a tough campaign. They started the streets
and started late.
And started late and still got the number of votes that he did.
Exactly.
So shout out to Prince. And I know he's going to be working in the community still.
Absolutely.
Working with young people, students.
And has really good ideas about things that need to happen. Like his is an important voice who has contact directly with students that are in our schools right now and that have recently graduated. And we need those credible messengers. We need to be able to know what's happening in our schools, for sure. And the other thing, I can't believe we didn't even say it yet, is that this kicks off, I guess I like to say a season of change, but we talked about, making history in this electoral process. The school board for Schenectady is now all women. It is all women, and it is majority women of color. Yeah. It is. That just happened.
That's history.
That just happened.
That is.
And we have the most people of color, predominantly Black people, running in the city and county of Schenectady. June 22nd is the next date. It is the next date of elections for Schenectady, and be sure to watch and follow and know what's happening, because I can't believe I didn't put this up there, and I'm gonna do it now. It's the We Won. Keep winning, right? So that's where we are. We won. Okay, we didn't get exactly the results we were fighting for, but we got good results. And we won. We did. I won a seat. I literally won a seat. And so we need to keep going. And to make that happen, we have to work together, and we need to do the work. So there's a way for folks to get involved. All you got to do is go to this lovely thing. We won. Keep winning. And there's 3 different ways to be involved. It's either in education, right? Being involved with our public schools in the fight for justice.
Yes.
The fight for justice in our unjust justice system, which is just fun to say. Let's end police brutality and all forms of the carceral state. And then there's the electoral work we still have to get done. There are candidates that need a lot of support. My dear friend Damani Farley is in a position where he needs volunteers. He needs people out on doors, and anyone that was there, supporting me, please come out and support Damani as well. And there are a lot of other candidates that are looking for support as well. There's no question about it. So there's access and opportunity if you're looking to be involved in electoral politics in that way and ensure that we have better representation. Hit the link. We've got a lot of work because we still have the end of the state legislature.
Yeah.
Where we're trying to pass less is more and
fair and timely, elder parole, etc. There's a lot of bills, and actually we need to set that link up so folks can follow. Look at the bills that we are supporting as far and as well as the Freedom Project, right? The Black Freedom Project is a collaboration of statewide organizations and organizers and just community members, period, that are trying to get together to work on statewide policy and legislation as it concerns Black and Brown communities. So keep following us. Look in the chat.
Go to the link.
On our post. It'll be there.
Make it happen. Put your name on there. My thank you post that I put up on my personal page has over 777 reactions.
Yeah.
If just half of y'all click that link and said, I'll do something, right? Nobody's saying you have to show up every day of the week like we do. But there are things that you can do either from your home or in the streets, making phone calls or knocking doors or like graphic design. Do you do graphic design? Because we need graphic design. Are you a writer?
Right. Yeah, I'm about to say, you're right.
Are you a writer? Would you like to help us with press releases and content for social media, responses to bullshit from cops? Like, there's lots of ways to be involved. It doesn't mean that you're necessarily in those streets, but you can be in those streets as well. If you have 1 hour once a week, click the link. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's it. We got a lot to do. And we need a lot of people to do it. It takes all of us.
I mean, I was going to say that. It felt a little bit. I was like, yeah, it does, literally. I mean, that's kind of how we move. It is the collective work. It's about having multiple organizations, being in collaboration with them, having folks from different backgrounds and et cetera. It's just about bringing everyone to the table, having conversations, getting involved, and, creating the world that we want, right?
Yeah, because we are nowhere near being in the world that we want or that we need, which moves us on to, the not so great topic of what's happened recently. And it's not new, unfortunately, right? We've seen a large grouping of violence in Albany.
Yep.
And it's not only in Albany, but the concentration that
this
happened,
iteration of it.
This iteration of it that happened this past weekend. At the same time, like it literally was happening simultaneously while there was a protest against the violence against Palestine. Mm-hmm. Like there was a call for an end to violence globally, and there was a local outburst of violence in the city of Albany, which myself and my daughter actually were really, really close to and witnessed. So it was a rough weekend, and my first thought is to all of the friends, family, and community members that are directly impacted by this. There are a bunch of folks that are indirectly impacted, but especially to those directly impacted that's living in those communities who may have personal relationships with any individual that was harmed. Be sure to reach out and lean on people who are there for you. I know that today, Trinity Alliance and Urban Grief are holding space from 1 to 6:30 p.m. at, I want to get it right, Swinburne Skate Park on Clinton Ave. So you don't have to do this alone if you're looking for somebody to talk to. There's going to be support and information and on-site victim services for anyone in need. It's not the type of thing where, I have to fill a box to go and talk to these folks. No. If you're feeling this, take the time, and thank you to Trinity Alliance and Urban Grief for holding that space, that healing space, because that is needed. There's a lot. There's the healing, and then there's the how do we move forward and what do we do differently? Because unfortunately, doing the same thing is not working. It's not.
No, it's not. It's not working. But yet that seems to, continue to be the go-to. And listen, there's no version of this that's not complex, right? There's no version of this that doesn't take a lot of work. It doesn't take a lot of conversations and a lot of actual change in our community. But something that doesn't work is more police. Something that doesn't work is heavy-handed approaches to the violence in the communities. That's something that does. I understand the instinct to seek retribution, right? I understand the instinct to, because this is how we learn to want to incapacitate, right? To take someone out of the community, and people have to be held responsible for the behavior. Yeah. That's just what it is, and especially at the level of violence that we're seeing. But this idea, I went to the press conference that the chief, the mayor, and common council folks, and I think it was a county legislator there as well. Yeah. And I listened to a lot of what they talked about, and what we heard more of than anything, was this robust partnership and relationship that they were going to spend on and we're going to put as much resources in this as possible. And it was only concerning law enforcement response. Yep. And it wasn't concerning anything else. Now, what we see in these communities time and time, right? There's these levels of violence. Every community that happens in is an impoverished one. Every community that it happens in is one that's heavily patrolled by the police.
Right.
Already.
Yep.
Right. We've seen the maps of the South Station, right? Where it's ring around the South Station is gun violence.
Yep.
Right?
Like the cops are sitting right there.
What are we
sitting
doing?
right there.
My thing is like it's a tactic, it's a strategy that hasn't worked. Right? More police hasn't worked.
No.
More technology, more militarization hasn't worked. What about investments on the other end, right? What about investments directly into that community? Intentional, strategic investments that have to do with raising the quality of life in those communities, right?
Yeah.
About raising the level of opportunity and access and spending robustly in that way, right? Developing partnerships that way. Because it's not going to change overnight. Yeah. It's not going to change because you hire 20 more cops. It's not going to change because you're now working with the FBI and that now you're strategic partners with the city of Schenectady and Troy and you're going to do all of this. It's not going to stop the violence. What it will do is allow you to react and to lock more people up. And you can remove all of those people from the streets. I just said this the other day over the week. You could take all the violence people off the street tomorrow, right? And violence will come back because the conditions in which violence was created is still there. And yet you're not doing anything about it. And I am so sick and tired of seeing it. I am so sick and tired of seeing it. There are prisons upon prisons upon prisons filled with people, right? That but for the conditions in which they grew up, oh my God, it's exhausting to watch these folks continue to lean on the same old strategies of lock them up and get more cops. And somehow that's going to stop the violence. We live in a violent culture.
It's
tiring.
Man. It is learned behavior and response that we are taught. It is a culture of violence, right? This is how we are supposed to react, except only the police are supposed to react this way. And when we say there needs to be an end to gun violence, that also includes the police. Like it's both and. Yes, we need to end gun violence in our communities, and that includes gun violence at the hands of our police. And it is that culture of pull yourself up by your bootstraps, take what you need, and just you're allowed to hurt somebody else to provide for yourself and to believe you had no alternatives, as well as all of the other ways that white supremacy shows up with toxic masculinity and patriarchy and yo, fuck that. You ain't gonna disrespect me. Yo, you want some, like all of that. Like you put it all together in this soup and you add on top of it a lack of resources and opportunity and people believing that they have to fight each other for resources because there is this false sense of scarcity that only exists because those in decision-making roles refuse to give to those that need it.
Yep.
It is all of those different pieces working perfectly together to create a system that allows then the police to go in and say, we are protecting you by removing these people from your community. As if
because they're the problem, not the conditions in which they grew.
And they're not. Besides the fact that any one act that a person commits, and let's not even get into the fact that lots of times people go to jail for shit they didn't do, because you just got to lock somebody up. No person is the one thing that they did, or the 1, 2, 3 things, or like to treat our community members as if they are disposable, as if they are animals that simply should be locked in cages and forgotten. And then to your point, nothing changed. You did not prevent the next shooting by locking someone in a cage because you convicted them of shooting someone. And sometimes it is true that they committed that violent act. and then another violent act happens. This idea, you've said it 1,000 times, we will not incarcerate our problems away. This country incarcerates more people than any other place in the world. And still we have the levels of violence and crime and the criminalization of people, which also is a part of another part of, the cycle, because it allows for the prison industrial complex. You want to have those in power, want to keep large amounts of people incarcerated for jobs in rural places that have no other economic system, for businesses and corporations that have slave labor with that prison labor that's inside. It's all connected. It's all entangled and it's all complicated. And for the mayor and the chief to just stand up and say, we're here for you, we're going to put more cops on the street because we're here to protect you, is fucking blind, and it's harmful. Because they are using the pain of the people to justify the increased harm that you're going to cause.
Let me just step into this for a second on a couple of points that you made. But matter of fact, let me just go to the chief and the mayor and some of the folks with this idea. So when we talk about the connections between the big money, right, and incarceration, like that's a real thing. That's a systemic issue.
Yeah.
Like that has the money that's involved in policing and incarceration is enormous.
Yeah.
Right? The folks that are head of these institutions, like the chief of police, the money isn't so for instance, the chief is an institutionalist. He's a head of an institution. He came into the police force as supporting that institution no matter what. And in the face of Elazar Williams being shot in the fucking back, he came in there supporting that and saying it was justified. So that's where the chief stands. And that's where I've seen him stand a lot of the times in many of his interviews and many of his actions ever since. Right. But I don't want to miss there's something here, because I want to talk about a little bit. Those young people out there committing acts of violence. Those young people out there that some of y'all who watching this live grew up with. Some of y'all who you know what I mean, who watched this live, went to school with, were friends with. Some of the ones that are the lives have been taken, like y'all knew them. Like that's a painful fucking thing, right? To see that those lives are now lost, because being in that system, it's a wrap.
Yeah.
Once you win it, it's a wrap. Like that your life is now lost, and it impacts me in a way because I was them young people, man. I was that person in the community. I wasn't always who I am today, right? I grew up in a particular way. I grew up not connected to my community, right? I grew up thinking about this society as I was separate from it. And that wasn't just, I didn't have it's something that was just essential about who I am or how I thought. I was taught that, right? I grew up under one of the most corrupt police forces in the fucking state.
In Schenectady.
Right? I grew up under one of the most poorest communities in the state. I grew up with an education system that did not support as many young people. And for all of y'all out there who sit on the sideline and saying like, oh, they're just stupid, or they're just dumb, or they're just bad, or whatever the case may be, because I came up in that community and I didn't do that, right?
Nah.
We as a people, many of us have always found a way to make it through.
To survive.
Right? To survive.
Yep.
Right? To make it out of situations. We are talking about creating conditions in our communities where it becomes more likely than not people are successful, people have a quality of life that's deserving of their humanity.
Yep.
Right now, we have it where a few will make it out. And congratulations if you do, you have whatever you had, you made it out. But we want the conditions where more than just a few make it.
Yeah.
Because what does making it out mean? Oh, I didn't go to jail, so I made it out. You still in a cycle of poverty, right? You still so it's a lot to talk about. There's a lot of changes that need to happen. There's a lot of real conversations that need to go down. But I just it's hard to look people in the face and see the pain there, right? and then talk about, well, this first initial reaction that you're having about more cops, because that's what a lot of our community thinks.
Yeah.
It takes more cops to stop this. This is why these type of conversations are so important to have, that we need to be talking about, okay, we need to invest on the other end, because we need to invest in what's preventative, right? Preemptive, not reactionary. The cops are a reactionary body. The bullets fly, they respond.
Yeah.
Right? The punches thrown, then they show up.
Yep.
They ain't there to block the bullets or to put the guns. They're not there for that. They there to incarcerate those who act.
And they want us to believe that they are removing a criminal element, and that's going to stop crime. That other people will see, oh, I go to jail if I do that, so I'm not going to do that. But when you're put in a position of fighting for survival and given messages every single day about what you're supposed to do and how you need to do that, like, no, the cage is not preventing anything. It's not. It's causing more harm. That's what it's doing.
Hey,
there's all kinds of things in the chat.
Put some silliness in the chat. So
yeah.
So
hold on 1 second. I saw it a long time ago, and you didn't see it when I saw it. So you can hold on a minute. There is data, because the other side likes to use data. There's all kinds of data that shows increasing policing does not correlate to decreasing crime. And one of Sean's favorite things to say is, look for the safest places in America, you'll find the lowest amount of police. It is what it is. But we have to be able to have conversations with our neighbors and our family and our friends to decolonize our minds about what keeps us safe and what it means to be safe and how we are to be protected and what we need to, and who we need to be protected from. There's this message that tells us we need to be protected from each other, that our neighbor is not our friend, and that if somebody slices a tire, they are a horrible person. If they break a window, if they stole something, right? Because the vast majority of crimes are larceny. Somebody stole some shit. You don't need a gun and a taser and a nightstick and pepper spray and rubber bullets because somebody's property was stolen or damaged. You don't. You need relationships. You need restorative practices. You do need restitution. How are you going to, make up for the property that's stolen, right? People need things. That's real. We don't need police who police us, like policing our bodies, our actions, our existence, telling us who is or isn't worthy of a second chance, of living. The best example I have is that the city of Albany let a cop walk after being videotaped beating the shit out of somebody. And their justification was, he's going to go get therapy. And then if he's good for a year, we're going to drop the charges even further down. And he can go be a cop again if he wants to, or do anything else in life. Why the hell don't we expect that of our people? That in our local communities, that when harm is caused, and I'm not saying that when the worst thing happens, when a life is taken, that you're supposed to just step up and say, I forgive you. I'm not saying that. But every single day, people are removed from our communities and we're told, fuck them. They're not worth it. They're violent. They're criminals. They're this, they're that. Why can't it be that we look at our people and say, you are worthy of love and support, and I know that you can do better and that you did not cause harm out of malice And let's look at circumstances that were involved around what the hell happened with you, whoever the you is. And let's just stop locking people up because it's not working. It's not. What's it not doing? It's not working. Okay, I think we've said it enough times. I've said it enough times. Shall we talk about the chat?
No, I don't want to talk about that nonsense because it is a bunch of nonsense, and it may be looking for just to simply get a reaction. History speaks for itself.
Born and raised in Schenectady, both of us. Hamilton Hill babies, right here in your face. And for us, it was never okay. I will be 47 this year, right? I can't time math. I'm gonna have a birthday, and it's never been good in the city of Schenectady for me and mine. Period.
And thank you for making your experience universal to everybody. Fuck else. But anyway, I don't want to get. There's just so much in this conversation, and it's a complex one. I talked to a brother of mine tomorrow who just recently came back to Albany. He's born and raised, huge family out there. And we were having this discussion, man, and talking about like what it is to be of in a space where you are trying to attack police brutality and address police brutality, right? But you're at the same time trying to address the other violence that's happening in the community. And too often, or far too often, where it's looked at as if these are two separate things.
Yeah.
When in all actuality, the fight that we're a part of is trying to address all of that.
Yep.
Right? Because you gotta understand the conditions of which those guns come into our community, get into the hands of these young people, and the underground trade, the poverty, all of that type of shit. Right? It wasn't born by happenstance.
Nope.
Right? These are conditions of which our communities have been intentionally impoverished, redlined, it's undereducated, underfunded, etc. Like these are the conditions that are here, and we are trying to have this conversation where we address all of these things. They are not separate issues.
Yeah.
Police brutality and gun violence are not separate issues.
Good morning to Miss Beverly, who asked a very specific question that I definitely want to answer. What do you consider youth? Not a person under 18 has been involved in shootings. The youngest person so far was 21. Every year, the same thing is said, more programs. So one of the things is every year we talk about more programs and services, and we are yet to see localities actually fund programs and services for us to show you what that would look like. I personally, 25. Anyone under 25, and I mean really 25, is when the brain stops developing, right? Mm-hmm. And yes, Tom's talking about individuals 14 to 24. These are young people who are still learning and growing and maturing. And living through extreme circumstances. We have teenagers who are attempting to go to school, high school, and work full-time jobs.
Wait. You know what though? Like part of the issue with that kind of statement is it's always talking about programs, yet this stuff keeps on happening. You talking about cops, and yet this thing is continuing to happen. I'm wondering, what was the thinking of even putting some of that in the chat? Because when you've been talking, it's been these same conversations. Yeah. And the only place where we've actually seen investment, right, is in law enforcement. Which is real tens of millions of dollar investment in law enforcement.
Which is our point.
Like, come on, what is
we're talking about programs because we've not seen that investment. We are saying this is what needs to happen. And those in decision-making roles, the chief, the mayor, the district attorney, are ignoring the voices of the people, those closest to the problem, and the data. There is data from across the country because they like talking about data. Heaven forbid the lived experiences of individuals and what we see in real time right here in the capital region, that localities that have programs and services and resources do not have the same level of violence and crime as inner cities that are underserved, underfunded, and don't have support and resources. So what we're saying is, let's do something different. Let us not continue to have more and more and more and more and more cops and more patrols and partnerships with sheriffs and FBI and DEA and whoever, the state troopers, right? Albany last year, we partnered with the state troopers. That didn't do shit. It may have, lowered traffic or increased traffic stops. I don't know. But do you need a gun for a traffic stop? That's a whole conversation we are having here in Schenectady. Traffic stops are completely separate from other types of crimes. So Josh has a whole nother opinion about it. Programs to reduce crimes in our communities so that all this overfunding to fight crime can be invested elsewhere, more useful and productive for our community. If we had skills training and job training for these young folks, if there were before school and after school programs for these young folks, if there were pathways to college, career, and trades for these young folks, and if they were accessible, because to your point, Beverly, that we should not have red tape to get our kids into these programs. It shouldn't be this hard. It shouldn't be a lottery. It shouldn't be accessible only to some, and you have to check all these boxes to be able to get into a program and services. That's exactly what we're saying, is that it needs to be accessible. And instead of the mayor and the chief saying they're going to invest in policing, invest in making sure that these programs are accessible to the vast majority of community members and the young people, that you can't, you're literally speaking to what we're saying. The programs that do exist are not accessible. So what are we doing to invest resources so that they are accessible?
Where they don't have the capacity to accept everyone that's, you know what I mean, in the community. It doesn't have the funding isn't there to reach everyone. Yeah. So we'll help a few. We'll get a few of these kids maybe get to the program that are able to kind of leap through the obstacles to get there. Yeah. But it doesn't have the funding, so it doesn't have the capacity and the reach. It just doesn't have the proper investment. And a lot of times, the folks that are in charge of looking at what programs to fund are folks that have no idea what those communities look like from the inside, right? They're not in real conversation with enough of the community to get ideas from the community about what that community needs. And the angle, like I could talk to you or anyone about, for instance, about what it felt like to be a young person growing up in an environment like that and the reasons why I behaved and acted the way I did, right? Yep. I had no, there was literally a complete wall between me and the rest of the world. I did not have that connection. It was that culture that was so encompassing to me. Yep. I never saw outside of it. Yep. Right. So I feel like, I don't know, what'd you point at? What's happening?
There's proof. Tom ran a program that served over 100 youth, got them out of the streets, got them services, employed, making livable wages. No reason for them to sell drugs or gangbang. And the recidivism rate was under 30% 3 years out. That it takes resources. It takes resources. I am so appreciating just the engagement of folks that are on the chat today.
We need to triple that funding, make sure that program is available.
Defund the police, invest in communities. Do you see what we're talking about? Defund the police, invest in communities. The positions that are open in the city of Albany right now, don't fill them. Take that money and put it into programs and services that are actually going to be preventative. And the mayor said something a couple weeks ago about, oh, we're going to fill them with, social workers instead, or some type of different response. No, just don't fill them at all. Cut some more positions and make those positions respond with mental health services and guidance counselors and social workers. Yeah, do that. Take the money that's already laying on the table and invest it in the programs that are actually going to support the youth right now. And be mindful that you're giving it to community members. Don't you go and get somebody from outside and bring them in to do the work in a community they don't know and don't understand. Train and invest in the community members that are already here. to be able to better support ourselves. Give us agency because we know what we need.
Oh, truthfully, though, we know they're not going to do that.
Oh,
I mean, we're having a conversation.
Easily.
We're talking about it. They ain't going to do that shit. Because if the ones that's in office, right, they would have been did it. So the gun violence conversation that happened in the press conference, and it's like, oh, we're gonna robust partnerships, we're gonna do this and that and the third. I could have took that same statement and put it in 1990 or put it in 2030. It's gonna be the same thing.
Yeah.
This is why our community involvement is so important. Who we have as representatives is so important, because what you're seeing right now, right? With the increased budgets in the police and the hiring of more cops and this kind of this focus on the same old thing with a mentionable which a nod, right? To, hey, there are systemic issues here and we do need to get some partners. But that was mentioned very little in comparison to this investment in this law enforcement and money and partnerships and etc. It is time for, listen, we got elections happening this year.
Joyce Love said all lives matter.
Yeah, she did.
Joyce Love,
Black
woman in the city of Albany, in the middle of this horrific thing that happened, stood with police and said all lives matter.
That's the kind of focus that we just don't need.
So in June, which is right around the corner, we're going to have a whole bunch of Monday conversations about elections and electoral politics and who can vote, because there are a bunch of people that don't know. We're over on time right now. We won. School budgets passed. We have more money coming into our schools than we have ever had in the state of New York because we fought and won. I personally fought for 10 years to increase funding across New York State, specifically for the city of Schenectady. And tens of millions of dollars are coming our way from New York State. There's also federal money, tens of millions of dollars coming to our schools that we need to make sure it's spent the way it needs to be spent. We need to make sure that people are in seats of decision-making roles that are going to move forward with a justice lens. Not equality, not equity, but justice, and ensure that we create the change that we need. We did win. We need to keep winning. You need to click the link. If you have 1 hour a week, there is something that you can do. Find a role for you to be a part of this, because it takes all of us. We are fighting against machines of the industry that have been entrenched for hundreds of years.
Have all the resources. Etc.
It is the power of the people that creates change. It has always been the power of the people that creates change. When we are united, we are able to create, we are able to act as if it were possible to radically transform the world, and do it all the time.
So y'all got y'all marching orders, right? Y'all got y'all will to fight. Y'all see the problems. We see the problems. Let's continue these conversations, but we have to have action.
Yeah.
We have to have action. You know, having elected officials in situations where they continue to rely on the same kind of tools that have not worked, saying, you know, mentioning Black Lives Matter, all lives matter. You know what I mean? As a you know, I don't even know what the point of her even saying that was at the moment when she said it. But whatever. Like, I can't get stuck there. The point is that that's the wrong focus.
And there's someone clearly against her.
Clearly their mind wasn't in a place where, you know, where it needs to be in order for us to get the type of change that we need. And I want to also say my condolences to everyone that lost them. I know you said it on the front end. I just say it on the back end.
Yeah.
To everyone that has suffered from the violence that happened over the weekend, and have suffered the violence that happened in our communities, period. We need to do something about it. This is what these conversations are all about. And just a final reminder, in case you're watching now and you didn't hear it earlier, from 1 to 6:30 today at the Swinburne Skating Park on Clinton Ave, Trinity Alliance and Urban Grief are going to be there to offer support and information and on-site victim services for anyone that's in need. It is an act of strength to show up and say that you need help.
it takes a strong individual to stand up and say, I'm not okay, I need help. If you need that help, go today. Reach out, be in community with each other. Let's keep supporting each other the way that we do, right? Because who keeps us safe? We keep us safe. Let's keep working together and create the world that we all deserve. You know what I'm gonna say? Drink water. I've started this morning. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And we're gonna be back tomorrow.
Yeah.
All
For
right.
sure.
Later, y'all.
Peace.